Mr. Samailas Subairu, our good friend, President and CEO of the Africa Finance Corporation, Ministers present, CEOs, distinguished participants, delegates, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome. I take this opportunity on behalf of the people and government of Kenya to welcome you all to Nairobi for this most consequential gathering that goes to the heart of our continent's future. The Africa Infrastructure Summit convened by the Africa Finance Corporation is a launchpad for what we want to see into the future as Africans. I also extend a very special welcome to the Africa Finance Corporation as it makes Nairobi its second home. Welcome to Nairobi. Kenya is immensely honored to host the AFC's first office outside its headquarters in Lagos. The theme of this conference, to my mind, is the most critical and vital conversation on our development as African nations and also as a continent. We meet against the backdrop of global economic shocks and disruptions arising from the war in the Gulf, from the war in Ukraine a few years to the war in the Gulf in a few weeks. Africa today produces approximately 10 million barrels of oil per day, which is about 10% of global output. Yet, paradoxically, we remain net importers of petroleum products to the tune of 120 million metric tons annually at a cost of about $90 billion. At an average export price of $75 per barrel, Africa's crude production is valued at roughly $270 billion each year. However, it is this same production, if this same production were refined domestically and exported as finished products at an average price of US $800 per ton, it would generate over $500 billion. This represents foregone income of about $230 billion, which is nearly 7.5% of our GDP from just one resource. This does not even account for the additional gains from downstream industries such as plastics and fertilizers, which we currently import and which we could add another 2 to 3% of our GDP. Excellencies, what point am I trying to make? Africa's place in global trade is defined by a structural imbalance that requires our urgent attention. According to the UN Trade and Development, the continent continues to export predominantly raw materials, minerals, fuels, and agricultural commodities, while importing the very products manufactured from those same resources. In many of our economies, over 60% of exports remain commodity-based, while we import nearly 3 times more manufactured goods than we export. It should not surprise us, therefore, that manufacturing has stagnated at about 10% of GDP for the last 2 decades. As long as this pattern persists, our growth will remain constrained, our economies will remain vulnerable, and our full potential will be unrealized. The leaders of the 50s and 60 years ago may be excused. Our continent then had a population of only 350 million people, largely rural and with limited purchasing power. Today, with a population of 1.5 billion people and a middle class of between 300 and 350 million people, we have no such excuse. We cannot continue to export raw materials and importing finished products made from them. The conversation we will have over the next 2 days must therefore be truly definitive on the way forward in terms of manufacturing and value addition. In this room, we have political leaders, we have industrialists, captains of industry, financiers, everyone required to move this agenda from aspiration to implementation. That is why I propose 3 key action points. First, we must strengthen our political resolve to deepen regional integration. Our countries possesses complementary endowments, including natural resources in one country, energy resources in another country, and an optimal location for industrial processing in the next country. This must be connected through infrastructure, roads, rail, ports, and electricity grids, so that raw materials and intermediate goods can move freely across borders. Equally important, the benefits of such integration must be shared equitably, ensuring that national boundaries do not impede the full realization of a common market with the free movement of goods, capital, and people. Second, we must establish regional platforms for strategic industries. It is worth recalling that the European Union began as the European Gold and Steel Community in 1951. Our East African community is richly endowed with renewable energy, the full spectrum of minerals driving the global energy transition, including copper, cobalt, nickel, manganese, graphite, lithium, and rare earth elements in Kenya, in Uganda, in Tanzania, in Burundi, in Rwanda, in DRC. We're all members of one community. I remember last evening talking to the president of Burundi on the possibilities that exist with the rich resources that exist in Burundi. I remember discussing with President Samia Suluhu this week. I put a phone call to President Museveni last week on this whole setup. And I want to thank you, Mzee, for finding time to be here. So that we can demonstrate leadership at the highest level to move this process forward. We must now move deliberately to pool these resources and position ourselves competitively in the global green manufacturing arena. However, we cannot achieve competitiveness without affordable energy, making large-scale investment in renewable energy an urgent priority, and ensuring that the resources that we have in our region, including the oil we have in Uganda, the little oil we have in Kenya, we must find the mechanism to leverage on these resources and drive our industrialization. Third, we must harness African capital. As the saying goes, he who pays the piper calls the tune. Industrialists here know the meaning of that phrase better than all of us. Our ambitions will remain unrealized if we continue to depend on external capital whose primary interest is securing raw materials for their own industries. We must say that with clarity. We must therefore strengthen our regional development finance institutions, including the Africa Finance Corporation. And I want to inform the Africa Finance Corporation fraternity that as you set up office in Nairobi, the Kenya government is going to enhance its equity by $25 million. As a demonstration of the confidence we have in African financial institutions. I know the president of Afrexim Bank is here with us. When I came into office, we enhanced our equity in Afrexim Bank by $40 million. I know my friend Tadesse is here. We have already discussed how Kenya, being among the highest shareholders of TDB Bank, how we are going to enhance our equity and shareholding in Trade and Development Bank. And we are doing it intentionally and deliberately because we know that they understand us better than anybody else. We do not have to explain ourselves in windy statements and languages. They understand us. They understand where we are. And they know us better than anybody else would. And I want to assure you that we will continue as leaders in this continent to build our own African financial institutions, give them the capacity. And I know we haven't done enough. You can count on us, we will do more. Until we develop the muscle for us to be able to drive our own industrialization and our own development. I say so with benefit of experience. And I will say this, why we must believe in ourselves. I want to say this with clarity. We must. If we are to make progress, it begins with us believing in ourselves. And this is a message I have been having a conversation with the people of Kenya. We must believe in ourselves. When I came into office, I will give you two examples, if you can indulge me. When I came into office, we had a serious fuel crisis in the country. There were queues in our petrol stations. The first lot of people to come to see me, even before I left my former office, were oil marketers. And they told me, Mr. President-elect, we are facing a stock out. We do not have dollars. We have a crisis. And it became my first assignment, maybe baptism by fire, on my first day in office. And we figured out with my team, how do we deal with this? And I remember reaching out to friends who, for this meeting I will not mention, good friends of mine who were running multinational banks and telling them, oh, we need to do this. Little did I know that many of them were already figuring out how they are going to make money when the dollar went to 200 shillings, Kenya shillings to a dollar. They're already thinking how to make money from foreign exchange. I mean, I'm looking at how do we solve a Kenyan problem. It is only one bank, one Kenyan bank, Kenya Commercial Bank, that was willing to issue letters of credit and stand with us at that very critical moment. Do you know what happened? We not only solved that problem in a very permanent way. Today we have a G2G framework that many other countries have come to learn from us. Malawi have been here to learn from us. Burundi have been here to learn from us how we did it. So we solved the problem. But you know what? Kenya Commercial Bank made tons of money in the process. Their share price went from 17 shillings to now 74 shillings. You know, if there was a case for believing in ourselves, Kenya Commercial Bank, being a Kenyan bank, believed in us. We believed in them. The outcome is a win-win. We not only solved our problem, but we built our bank even more. That's one example. Example number 2. When I made a proposition to the people of Kenya on a matter that has been with us for a long time, on how do we deal with the challenge